Are you ready for some concrete steps to reinvent yourself? No, not those kind of steps, but action steps. How's it going, reinventors? I'm Amelia, and this is Reinventing You. This is the channel where you can be inspired to take your own reinventing journey so that you can live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. We are in the middle of the 2 in 2022 challenge. This is the second Tuesday where I have posted a 20-minute video to get you rebooted, restarted, or just simply started reinventing yourself. Now, if this is the first time you found this channel, maybe you just kind of, it came up in your feed at some point in YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a subscriber, I appreciate you so much. Please give me a thumbs up. And if you just watch but haven't yet subscribed, I invite you to do so. Now, if you have not said you're following the 2 in 2022 challenge, I invite you to comment below and say, hey, I want to join in, and just type in 2 in 2022. Now, last week I posted a video, which you can see, a link is below in the description, and that was all about setting your parameters. Note, I didn't say goals, I called them parameters for reinventing yourself. This is where the area of your life where you want to reinvent yourself. Now, I happen to be filming this part of the video in the car. I videoed the whole thing this morning. I guess you can say re-record. So anyway, I'm in the car. My husband had to make a stop, and so I said, I'll go with you and I'll just record from the car. That's all I can do right now. So I hope that you have worked on your parameters this past week and worked on really focusing on what you're reinventing or how you're restarting or renewing your reinventing process in 2022. Now, I'm going to step back a little bit because I'm like way in the sun. That is so bright. I'm so glad it's warm in the car because it's cold outside. But I wanted to talk to you today about concrete steps for reinventing yourself to reboot your reinventing process. And when I say concrete steps, I mean literally these steps that you're having to take, the large ones all the way down to the baby steps that you're going to take on a daily basis to get yourself rebooted and reinvented. Now, I'm going to recommend that you do something called a flow chart. And I'm also going to recommend that you work backwards, which I guess in a way is kind of, seems counterintuitive. I know that before when I've done goal setting, or I've had like a vision where I've tried to go after it, I sometimes try to take big chunks of things and try to do too much at one time. Then I get burned out. Then I get, frustrated, and then I don't finish what I've started. So doing it this way is going to help you in successfully reinvent yourself and also feel good about it as you're working. So what I want you to do is, now for those of you who are not visual learners, you're more auditory, or you do better talking out things out loud, then do that too. In fact, sometimes some of the best thinking I've had is in the car driving, and I just kind of talk out whatever it is. If you have a memo function on your phone, it's a great way to use that. But I really feel like even if you do it out loud, you need to write it down in some form so that you get a better sense of where you're headed and can keep track of the steps that you need to take. So the first thing you need to do is just simply write down where you're headed, your parameter for your reinventing life, your parameter for how you're going to look when you have reinvented, how you're going to feel, what is it going to be like, envision it. What is that final picture? And that's at the bottom of your flow chart. And then I want you to think about, well, before you get to that last step, what do you need to have done? What do you need to do? And then before that, what's before that? So I have an example that I'm going to show you with a flow chart that I came up with. Now, I just came up with an example, and I try to do different examples so that you're not thinking, oh, well, she was only concerned about people doing relationships or in career or that kind of thing. So what I want to do is show you an example that I have of somebody who said, oh, I think I'm going to improve my physical health. And then that was the parameter, but then they decided the focus was feeling more energetic, having more energy, just feeling better about themselves and how they went about doing that. So take a look at this flow chart. I'm going to walk you through it, and hopefully you'll be able to apply this to your own situation. Now, I do want to point out that this flow chart is not necessarily something that you're going to follow. This is a chart that helps you brainstorm in an orderly fashion to help create steps that you're going to be following to reinvent yourself. And these are steps that will be broken down into smaller steps called baby steps. And these kind of steps are what you'll be doing on a daily or weekly basis. The small steps will help you build into the bigger steps that will help you reinvent yourself. So in this example, of course, I'm starting with, get energized or get more energized physically. And then I came up with some ideas like get better sleep, eating healthy, getting exercise. And from there, I worked backwards and tried to figure out, okay, well, what makes for better sleep or what makes for eating healthily? I cannot say that, healthily. And so this is just a way of brainstorming in an orderly fashion to create steps to show you this has to come and then that has to come next. And the reason we're doing this is because there are certain times when certain things have got to happen in a particular order. And the example that I have in my own life was when we had all this work done on our house. There were certain things that had to come before the plumber could come in and do his work. The electrician had to do something, and the air conditioner people had to do something, and the flooring people had to do something. And there were a couple places in the house where actually the quarter round does not meet the floor. And that's because the baseboards were put in before the flooring and before we knew what the measurement of the flooring was going to be. And so even though it looks fine on the big picture, I know that there are about 3 or 4 places in the house where there's corners where there's no quarter round because you can't fit quarter round in that space because the flooring is too close to the baseboard. So it's really important when you're creating steps to move you toward reinventing yourself that you do it in a certain order and that you focus on what's important. What are the first things you need to do? And you break those down in little baby steps. Now, in this example, things went very smoothly. Now, when I actually sat down and did my own flow chart for my own personal making an online course for reinventing yourself, it was not as smooth as this. In fact, one of the things I knew I was going to have to do was do a business license. But really, behind all that was monetizing my whole channel and creating more of a business model. And the reason for that is there are so many layers. If I'm going to do some videos and create this class, then I've got to have better equipment. I mean, today was an example of what happened when you don't have really good sound or you don't have really good video quality. So I need a better camera. I need a better mic. I need a more sound proof room. All of those things, when you realize if you're going to make an online class and you want to be not just give information, but to be clear, to be something people want to see and be able to engage in, there are certain things that have to come before that. So that was helpful for me, and it helped me realize there were a lot of other things that are going to go into this online class, and that was the realization for me. Now, with this example, what I realized when I did this is the whole caffeine issue was something that really came out heavily in doing this. And so you might do a flow chart and you might think it's supposed to go a certain direction, but when you get there, you discover, wait, there's a particular issue that I need to focus on. What are my baby steps? And I'll talk about this later on the video, but I'm not sure if I made this clear. But what are the baby steps to cut down on caffeine? How can I help myself get over drinking caffeine? How is caffeine affecting my body? How can I do things that are more healthy for my body that don't involve caffeine? And there were certain things, and I'll say this again as well, that like, okay, if you drink caffeine here, then it affects this, and affects your sleep, and it affects your energy level. But if you don't have caffeine, then your energy level is better. So, just like this cycle, you've got to break that cycle. Now, you may not have that kind of insight when you do your flow chart, but when you do this flow chart, you're going to be building steps or realizing the steps that you need that will break down into smaller steps to reinvent yourself. Now, one of the things that happened when I did the flow chart and started looking at the issue of caffeine and realized that was something that kept coming up again and again and again, then I had to go to the internet and find out, okay, why does caffeine affect your body? What can you do in the afternoon? And it talked about the circadian rhythm. The article I found was from Barney's.com. Of course, it's a coffee company, so I felt like it was pretty legit. They weren't saying don't drink coffee. They were just saying why you shouldn't drink it after a certain time, or why caffeine affects you the way it does. And I found that very helpful. It talked about the chemical effects of caffeine in your body. It talked about why caffeine affects your circadian rhythm, and why you naturally are tired in the afternoon, and that, caffeine stays in your body for so long. And I feel like I'm talking more about caffeine. And so what I'm trying to say is when you get a certain point in your flow chart and you're looking at your parameters for reinventing yourself, and you realize these are some of the steps you have to take, and you realize something comes up again and again. Maybe it's an issue in your relationship. Maybe it's an issue in your job. Maybe it's an issue in things you enjoy after retirement. Whatever it is, take a moment and say, okay, maybe now's the time to go to the internet. I need to look this up. I need to figure out why this is, or what I can do to help this issue, or maybe there's a book or to read or a video to watch on this. And so what happens is you have to be careful that you're not going, on and on and on, but it says, okay, reading this article helped me say, okay, one of the baby steps for reducing caffeine is not to drink after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. One of the baby steps on reducing caffeine is realizing my body's natural circadian rhythm is coming down in the afternoon. So either I have to find other strategies to create a little bit more energy to get me through the day, like walking instead of drinking caffeine, and maybe that's walking on a walking track near your work. I did that one time before in my life. Or maybe it's walking up and down the stairs in your building, or just walking around the office, visiting with some people, or getting more water. Maybe it's saying, okay, what am I eating at lunch that's making me tired? Or, sometimes what happens is you're tired because you're not sleeping well, and you're not sleeping well because you're drinking so much caffeine in the afternoon. It's sort of this, one thing makes that happen, but if you cut out one thing, it will help the whole, cycle. So when you're doing this flow chart, when you're going backwards from this step and working through, you will find, there's some information out there that's going to help you create baby steps so that you're doing something every single day to get you where you need to go. Now, this is Editing Amelia breaking in, because I realized at this point in the video, I started really talking about something that I'm not going to be talking about in the next video. This has been a crazy day and a crazy video, but nevertheless, what I did want to say is that in my own experience, I felt like there were some major gaps in trying to create my steps. Like there are some things I feel like I don't know. I don't really know all the steps in creating a business license, or getting monetized, or how getting monetized is going to help me purchase things that's going to help my online class. I don't know what all I need to do for the online course. So at this point, I realize there's a lot of information that I need to be gathering, and that may be your experience. If there's some information that you need to gather, put down in the comments information and work on that this week. I'll be doing the same. I hope this has been helpful for you. I know that when I went through and did this flow chart and I realized the issue of caffeine was such a big thing, even though, at first people probably said, oh, I'm going to be healthier in my, physical, I'm going to reinvent my physical health. And they think, oh, I'm going to lose weight. And so you don't think of the fact that caffeine can have such a powerful impact. And I know that I've read about and talked to people who said that your sleep, the quality of your sleep, can actually help you to lose weight. It can help you to feel more energy. It can help you to feel less stressed. There are also many things that help happen when you have healthy sleep. But in order to have a healthy sleep, you got to see what comes before that. So you want to be healthier. You think it's going to be one way. You think, oh, I'm just going to be all eating. But when you really sit down and do the flow chart, you said, wait, this is really starting to be more about caffeine. And sure, there's some sugar intake and everything, but it's going to help my sleep, and that's going to help my eating better, and that's going to help me, in a lot of different ways. So when you do the flow chart, you're going to find some surprises and things. In fact, I'm now thinking about my own parameter of reinventing myself in terms of this channel, and I think it's going to be one way. When I sit down and do a flow chart, it may be another way entirely. And I guess I should have done that before this video, but I got so excited about sharing the flow chart and sharing what you need to do. Now, once you have that flow chart, once you have those steps, then you have to start looking at, okay, this is editing Amelia again. I have to say, I got so distracted by the idea of caffeine that I lost the track of what I was trying to tell you guys, is that this is how you create the baby steps. You look at your flow chart. You look at things that you need to do. You need to say, okay, and this example was about caffeine and then how you cut back on caffeine. Here are some things you need to do, and you break that down and you make those steps as easy as possible. And for example, if I'm going to make a breakfast brunch, and I know I've got to serve at 10 a.m., and then that means 10 minutes before then the rolls have got to be in, and then the casserole's got to be cooked before that, and then I break down the ingredients of the casserole. I mean, all of those things you have to do, and you have to create the smallest steps you possibly can in order to create bigger steps. If you've been following the 2 in 22 challenge, don't forget to leave that in the comments. Also in the comments, let me know when you do your flow chart, or if you talk it out loud, or, to talk with somebody about what you want to do in terms of your concrete steps to reach your reinventing parameters, or reinventing boundaries, reinventing goals. Then in the comments below, let me know something that you discovered in doing this kind of flow chart, working backwards, making concrete steps that you were surprised about. Maybe something that you didn't realize. You were thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to lose weight, when you found out no, you're going to cut out caffeine or lessen your caffeine intake. I want to hear from you, so please put that in the comments. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Can't wait to see you next Tuesday for more in the 2 in 2022 challenge. Work on those baby steps. I'll see you in the next one.